Today we're going to chat about Georgina. Now, just like my other videos, we are going to have a look at the most current month of data we have from the Toronto Real Estate Board, which is February 2021. We're going to compare that with what happened a year ago in February 2020, and then we're also going to have a look at the month before in January 2021. So a year ago, 72 total units sold across all home types. So that is condos, semis, towns, links, everything in Georgina. And that was down to 64 in January 2021 and up to 136 in February 21. So we are seeing naturally for the time of year, we are seeing inventory levels beginning to climb. Buyer demand is also staying quite strong. So I think there's a few things feeding into that. Of course, is the exodus from the city, if you will. There's still a large work from home movement. A lot of folks coming up because they're discovering that they can work from home. Employers discovering that they can keep their people working at home. So we have that. Of course, there was a rate hold with Bank of Canada, but interest rates have popped up a little bit. So anybody that currently has a pre-approval is motivated to buy a house now because the rate holds are typically only good for 60, 90, or 120 days. So I believe what you're seeing is this little pop in the market that we're seeing in the last few weeks is largely due to the interest rate increase and everybody wanting to get in with their old rate, or their preferred rate, I guess. So average sale price across all home types a year ago in Georgina was 574,795 the end of the year, currently trending at 831. So that's a pretty significant increase year over year. Now, when we look at other markets, we are starting to see this number sort of top out a bit. So like in Newmarket, we're actually seeing the number kind of consistent month over month. Actually, in Aurora, we've actually seen the number go down from January to February. So I've said this in other videos. I mean, we are typically seeing, I think, we're starting to see the sort of limit to the market. If you're asking how far can the market go, how much will people pay for houses? I mean, people will not pay without limits. It will eventually bounce off a ceiling, and I believe we are beginning to see that. Sales to new listings ratio could also be referred to as the absorption rate, and it tells us out of the homes coming on the market each month, what is the percentage that are actually selling. So a year ago, 48.6% of the homes coming on the market selling in Georgina. Back in January, 61.5%. Currently 70.5%. Now, if we're talking about what is a buyer's market, what is a seller's market, typically when you're in the 50s and 60s, you're in a what we would call a balanced market. So there is a balanced supply to demand. When you're getting into the 70s, 80s, 90s, typically you're entering into a seller market at that point. So again, inventory levels have climbed. That's the only reason we can get up to 136 based on literally half that the month before. But buyer demand is still quite strong. And again, I believe a lot of it is due to the points I chatted about earlier. Months of inventory, also a really good gauge of the market. Tells us that if no other homes came on the market at the current rate of buying or the current rate of consumption, how long would it take for the inventory levels to totally deplete? A year ago, 2.2 months of inventory, dropped in half in January, currently trending at 0.8. So unlike some of the other surrounding markets like, Bradford or Newmarket, Aurora, where we are starting to see, inventory levels stay the same or go slightly up, we are still seeing inventory levels decline in Georgina. And part of that, I believe, is just due to the overall average sale price of Georgina. If you want to be in York region and you want to own a home and you're, buying in at the entry level point, Georgina is a great place to do that. It's a great community. And of course, being waterside certainly helps it. So, I believe that's where you're seeing that demand. Now, sale price to list price inventory or ratio, what that tells us is what is the ratio of sale price to list price. So a year ago, 99.3. 104% of asking, so homes selling over asking in January, currently at 108. And so I've said this in other videos. I mean, certainly, there has been up until I think now, and we're starting to see that shift in the market where homes have been underpriced to the market, and of course they're selling over asking price. But we are starting to see homes come on the market where they're priced at what I would call an intentional price, or they're, what the seller really wants, or priced to the market based on what other solds are doing. I mean, when you see market shift and they start climbing up, like we saw right at the beginning of the year, it's always difficult to, let's say you had a house that was, worth 1.2 or would sell at 1.2, but you listed at a million because there was no evidence of that data. Now that evidence has, it's basically 60, 90 days old. So we have a little bit more consistency in the numbers, and I believe you will start seeing that consistency in the numbers going forward. Days on market to get a home sold a year ago was 15. A month ago, or sorry, in January was 16, and currently trending at 13. So what does this market mean for buyers and sellers? Well, for sellers right now, I've said this in some of my other videos, I believe that the market currently that we're in is a limited time market. There has been a slight pop in interest rates. And I think also the availability of the vaccine is something that hasn't really been widely talked about as it pertains to real estate. And so I know from my discussions with sellers that are looking to maybe downsize or looking to buy into their next home as an upsizer. I know that the vaccine for some people has played a big part, right? And so there's been a lot of people that have been holding off on buying and selling because they want the vaccine to be out there and a little bit more readily available. And I believe personally that as we see, the release of the vaccine more to the masses, I think we're going to start seeing more houses come on the market, which is, of course, going to quiet the multiple offers. So, I mean, really what we're dealing with now is a supply and demand, right? And that's what the market always is, of course. I mean, right now we're in fairly low supply, so the price continues to increase. But naturally, given the time of year, as inventory levels rise, it tends to quiet the multiple offers naturally. And so for buyers right now, certainly I would say be patient. I know there is some buyer fatigue going out there where, maybe you've been active and you've lost, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 offer presentations. Be patient. We are seeing shifts in the market where, offer presentation dates are beginning to not work out, and homes are being relisted at a more intentional price. And we're also seeing, I've had it recently where I was involved in an offer presentation for one of my buyers, and there was 5 offers on the property. None of them worked out. We went in the next day and we were the first ones in the door, and we managed to secure the deal conditional on financing. So we are starting to see conditions reintroduced into to offers again. So conditions on finance, conditions on home inspection. So that indicates to us that obviously the market is starting to shift. So if you were thinking about making a change, a buy or a sale or both in 2021, I would welcome the opportunity to answer any of your questions. Please don't hesitate to